What is up, everybody? Sean Sheehan back here with another edition of the Sheehan Show on Sherdog.com, and it is another PFL preview today as the playoffs for Season 7 kick off with a couple of big lightweight fights, or one big lightweight fight anyway, two big lightweight fights, and a couple of light heavyweight fights as well. It's been a very good season in the PFL. If you haven't seen all of the PFL learning, I actually did a video a couple of weeks ago, kind of recapping all of that. There hasn't been many changes since. I'll actually run you through the brackets here in a second quickly before we start, but there's 3 weeks upcoming now with the PFL, and it's going to be a good time. It's going to be a fast, fun 3 weeks, and then obviously we'll be moving on to the finals. So this weekend on the 5th of August, we have the, did I say the 7th season? I'm in PFL 7. So the 2022 playoffs, obviously, in New York. Then on August 13th, they go over to the Motorpoint Arena in Cardiff, in Wales. And then on the 20th of August, they're in the Copper Box in London. And, you know, since the last time we spoke about PFL, they have announced this new kind of European series. Not sure exactly how that's going to work or how that's going to look, but it's exciting, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. A few of my countrymen were signed to PFL as well, which I'm sure we'll talk about loads in the future. So it's very exciting times, I suppose, at this side of the world for PFL and for MMA in general. And, you know, we've seen a lot of talk and conjecture and posturing, I suppose, in the UK and Ireland with mixed martial arts over the last few years, but really at a place now where it's battle on, kind of, because Bellator Europe came in, they did great things for a while, paid a lot of money to people. The people weren't really moving anywhere or doing anything. A lot of people got, you know, cut from Bellator Europe. Cage Warriors have been doing the same thing for the last literally 20 years now, and they've been doing a great job of it. Bellator are still doing, you know, the London cards and the Dublin cards as well, and maybe we'll see some more coming back as the world gets back to somewhat normality. But now we have PFL as well, and we have the UFC doing London. I don't know about the UFC in Dublin. It feels like Ireland is open. They should be back now at this stage, and they haven't been back yet, so I don't know what's keeping them. But we went from a stage in this part of the world where we had, you know, we were almost begging for the big MMA organizations to come over, and now they're all here and they're almost fighting for this area, and it's great. You know, it's great for the fighters. Look at someone like Brendan Loughnane getting paid massive money, Miles Price getting opportunities, Will Fleury getting opportunities, John Mitchell, Nathan Kelly and others. Great, absolutely fantastic. So since the last time we spoke about PFL, that has happened. We'll speak more about that as we go on. Let me run you through the standings quickly before we get to our 3 playoff episodes. We'll have one every week, and as I said, I cover every PFL card here for Sherdog, and it's actually great. It's great. Do you know, it's a bit easy for me as well, because I get like, how many fighters? I don't know, 30 fighters at the start of the year, maybe not that much. I look at all of them, and then it's the same guys for the next like 10 episodes. You know, it's great. It's very handy for me. I don't have to do much analysis. The same guys fighting over and over and over, and ladies as well, obviously. But the standing, the bracket. We look at the brackets because there's no point looking at the standings because they've changed a little bit. So here are the fights we're going to be seeing over the next few weeks, and I'll talk about this week's fight then after that. So Anthony Pettis versus Stevie Ray, Olivier Aubin-Mercier versus Alexander Martinez. They are your 2 fights in the lightweight division. Then in light heavyweight, we have Rob Wilkinson and Delan Monte, and Omari Akhmedov versus Josh Silveira. Emalia Shoeface, Antonio Carlos Jr., he was forced out. I believe he's injured, so Josh Silveira comes in here, and honestly, you know, it's probably the biggest, well, maybe the biggest loss, maybe up there with Pettis and Rory McDonald as like the biggest loss you could have, losing Shoeface. But if there was one guy out of all the divisions I would like to see come in and get a place in the playoffs, it is Josh Silveira. Anyone who's been watching these previews knows I really, really rate Josh Silveira. He's son of Conan Silveira. We'll obviously talk more about him. That is a really, really good addition, and that's fantastic. We'll talk more about him in this episode shortly. Those are the fights that I'm going to preview now in a second. Then next week in Cardiff, Wales, we have the welterweight and heavyweights. We have Rory McDonald and Magomed Umalatov, and then we have Sedabu C versus Carlos Leal. Denis Gostov then in the heavyweights against the champ, Bruno Capiloza, who lost his last fight, and the guy he lost is actually not in it, Matthias Steffel. In the other semi-final, it is Antideja against Renan Ferreira, so that should be fun. And then in the London card, we have the women's lightweight and the men's featherweight as well. So we have Larissa Pacheco, who's been on a massive run. She's fighting Olena Kleshnik, and then we have Kayla Harrison, the biggest draw in PFL against Martina Jandirova. Over in the featherweights then, we have Chris Wade against Brendan Loughnane, a massive fight for Loughnane, and sorry if I pronounce it differently. Loughnane is from like my part of the world here, and they call it Loughnane in England, but I'm going to continue to call it Loughnane because that's how you pronounce it. He's of Irish descent. It's Loughnane. He's the one pronouncing it wrong. I'm pronouncing it right. So sorry if I pronounced the name correctly. My apologies on that. But anyway, he's fighting Chris Wade. As I said again, hometown advantage, not hometown advantage because he's not from London, but home country advantage for Loughnane, and that's absolutely massive for him. And in Ryoji Kudo, maybe my favourite fighter in the PFL. I love Ryoji Kudo, or Ryoji Kudo. He's fighting Bubba Jenkins, which is a very, very tough fight. As I said, we'll get to all of those. Let's talk about this weekend's card though. Because it's a good one, it's a good one, and I will work my way up the card because we have a massive rematch of a fight we only saw a couple of weeks ago in the main event, but we also have some kind of up and comers on the card as well. And I'll run through them very quickly. We have Lucas Barbosa. His fight isn't, at the time of recording, his fight isn't actually announced yet, so we'll wait on that. But he's a Brazilian. You see a lot of this, like I spoke about the Irish lads kind of coming in. He's coming out of Brazil, and he's from Atlas MMA. He's only 2-1 in his career. Very young, good jiu-jitsu guy. His 2 wins have been by stoppage, 1 rear naked choke, and 1 by punches. Won his last 2 in a row. But that was back in 2012. So this guy hasn't been around for 10 years now. Someone might know more about this than me, but I assume he's been around doing a lot of jiu-jitsu around the place, and also looking forward to that. Then we have 1-0 Alex Pergrande against Elvis LeBron Quiles. Elvis LeBron? That's what a name that is. Cory Jackson in against Elvin Espinoza. It's a very interesting fight. 5-2 Jackson. Espinoza is 6-0. Jackson fighting out of Team Cologne. He's as I said, he won his first 3 fights in a row. Then he fought over in Bellator and last year he fought once over in the XFL as well. But he won his last fight back in March, and he gets the opportunity here. Espinoza looks like a very good guy coming through, fighting out of Zin Jiu-Jitsu. Obviously, he's won 6 fights in a row. He fought in the PFL last year. He got a similar sort of opportunity, and he's getting another one here. So, he has all finishes on his record, 1 in the second round and all the rest in the first round. So he's definitely a finisher, and that should be an interesting fight as well. A lot of guys now as well, PFL are signing more people. And it's going to be tougher. Say someone like this might get an opportunity to get a good win and they'll be on it next year. That's not always the case now. You might have to have a superb flying win altogether to even get a thought about getting a chance on the big stage next year. So it's massive for these guys to put in big performances here. With Brian Zurcher in against Ricardo Jimenez. Zurcher is 3-0. He's fighting out of Extreme Couture, a gym that is, I suppose, had an up and down time over the last while, but they're producing some very, very good fighters out of that gym. He fought as well in the PFL Contender Series earlier this year. He fought in Combatches Global as well before that, so a guy with a bit of experience in 2 fairly good organizations there. His opponent obviously is 1-1. He's fought twice in a ring of combat, won his last fight back in May, only a couple of months ago. So looking forward to that one as well. Then we have, maybe the higher up guys. Marcelo Nunes against Adam Keresh. Nunes 8-1 in his career. He fights out of Drydsel's Jiu-Jitsu. Beat Bevan Lewis last time out in the PFL. He's fought in CFFC as well. He's only lost his to Rafael Lovato Jr. back in 2016. He took a 4-year hiatus from MMA and came back and fought in CFFC. So, obviously a really, really talented guy there. 6 submission wins, fighting out of Drydsel's Jiu-Jitsu. He's going to have unbelievable Jiu-Jitsu. And then Keresh on the other side of it as well, fighting out of Israel. 5 knockouts in his 5 fights to date. Big heavyweight has only lost to Klidzin Abreu, who had some great performances this year over in the PFL as well. And before that, he fought in Bellator a couple of times. He beat Kirill Selidnikov. A pretty good career so far for him. So, at heavyweight, that should be a very, very interesting fight there as well. And you never know if someone pulls out, with a few of the fights, coming up, it could be. It could be a spot for him there, so very, very interesting to see how that one goes. And then I suppose to the bigger fights, one fight that seems like it's a playoff fight, but is not a playoff fight, is Martin Hamlet versus Cory Hendricks at light heavyweight. Now, I'm not sure if it's official or not official, but sure, look, the winner of this was probably going to be the one who takes someone's place if someone falls out, which could very well happen. There's very quick turnover of fights, obviously. Injuries can happen, wear and tear can happen, and someone might need to get in there. So Cory Hendricks and Martin Hamlet fighting in the light heavyweight division. They fought back in 2019, I believe. They fought in 2021. Only last year. My years are getting away from me. And Hamlet won that fight late in the 3rd round. It was one of those fights, where Hamlet, if anyone has watched Martin Hamlet, he is a very, very good wrestler, tries to pull the fight to the ground early. And Hendricks on the other side then, I wouldn't say he's an out-and-out striker or anything like that. He's 5 submissions, 3 KOs and 1 decision in his 9 wins in his career. So he is a submission guy as well. But and you're fighting out of Syndicate MMA, he's going to be well-rounded. When you're fighting a guy like Hamlet, though, you have to keep that fight off the ground. He just wasn't able to do it on that fight. Now, there's 2 ways of looking at this going into this fight. Does he try to do the same thing and keep the fight off the ground and win it that way, which wasn't really successful last time, although when it did, I watched that fight just before I recorded. Yeah, he fought southpaw a good bit of that. When he did have it on the feet, he looked like he could have success. But I don't know, is that enough against a guy like Hamlet? I really don't know. He's, if you look at Hamlet's 4 losses, 2 by KO, 2 by submission, I think that says a lot. I think you have to go in there and try to finish Hamlet. Now, maybe that is keeping it on the feet and winning that way. But I would suggest if you're a guy with lots of submissions, maybe not necessarily go full Paul Craig here and let him take you down, but go for it on the ground. Go for the submissions, play into his game. Say, right, I'm going to meet you here on the ground and I'm going to catch you with something. Because against Hamlet, it's very tough unless you're someone who's a better wrestler than him, which we have seen in this division a couple of times, obviously. It's very hard, I think, to beat him with striking, because, and that's not rocket science, lads. I'm not, Luke Thomas doing a 48-time watched fight technical breakdown here. If you've good wrestling, the other lad striking isn't going to mean much if he can take it out, So I think look, that's the key here. It's not a rocket science fight here, but I think the one part of it that Hendricks maybe could win it on is if he threw in a few submissions maybe there against Hamlet. But I would fancy Hamlet to win that fight, to be honest, and I'll give my picks for the rest of these fights here as well towards the top. Honestly, I think the fight maybe I'm most looking forward to on this, although these top 4 fights, I really like all of them. Honestly, this is a great top 4. I think the Hamlet Hendricks fight probably won't be a great fight, if I'm being honest. I think Hamlet will probably take him down. But the rest of them, I think 3 out of 4 of them will be very good, at least. Delan Monte against Rob Wilkinson. Rob Wilkinson might be, and it's a weird thing to say because this might be hyperbole, but he might be the best fighter in PFL in the last 2 or 3 years. And I know, like, he came in and he won his 2 fights this year in PFL, and obviously, you know, he was supposed to be, I think he was supposed to be in it, but like with travel restrictions and all of that sort of stuff, he probably wasn't able to get over. But he fought Adesanya back in 2018, and he's fought, you know, Dylan Andrews over in Australia, and then he fought Daniel Almeida over as well. And I know he's only come in this year. When I say in the last few years, I don't think I've seen someone look as maybe improved and polished in the PFL as Rob Wilkinson has. You know, he finished Brucey Soto to start to the second round, and he knocked out Victor Pechta as well. And he just looked good doing it. You know, you think of someone, and maybe it's because we all watched that Adesanya fight back in 2018, and look where Adesanya has gone since then. But he's 4-0 since that as Wilkinson. And I just feel like maybe he's the uncrowned champion at division, and maybe that, you know, that's a dangerous thing to say before a semi-final when there's a final already, you know, waiting to be won as well. But I really like him. I think he's very, very good. I think he's underrated. I think, you know, I spoke last week on one of these videos about the middleweight division being really, really good outside of you know, of the UFC, and there being a lot of guys, and obviously this is at light heavyweight, but he, you know, in PFL, because it's, you see a lot of middleweights fighting light heavyweights, and, you know, lightweights, or lightweights fighting a welterweight and stuff like that, because of the weight cut that happens so often. I'm sure he could get back down to middleweight. No, maybe I'm wrong, but the point is, there's some great talent outside of the UFC, and I think Rob Wilkinson is one of those guys. Okay, I'll say it again, he lost Adesanya, but that doesn't mean you're a bad fighter. And I think, in fact, he is a very, very good fighter, and he can fight all around. Very good wrestler, can strike, good jiu-jitsu. And Dylan Monte then, like, he came in, and I remember trying to find tape on him before his fight against Shoeface at the start of this year, and I struggled. I really couldn't find much. And he came in, he got knocked out in 29 seconds. Or sorry, choked. Bravo choke, not knocked out. Choked in 29 seconds. So we still had much tape, and then he goes in there and does what he does to Sardi in 92 seconds. So we still don't have that much tape on him, you know. We've 2 minutes and 1 second of tape on this guy here, but from what we saw in that second fight, he's a berserker. You know, he comes out and he throws those shots, throws those big hard hands, and if he can do that against Rob Wilkinson, we got a fight in our hands, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be a great fight, and then I think we might. I don't know. I feel like, look, Rob Wilkinson is a smart guy, and if it's going badly for him, I think he will take the fight to the ground and try to win it there. But you know, Monte has a few submission wins as well on his record. You know, he's 3 submission wins, 9 KO. So it's not like he's a mug on the ground or anything like that. If you go to the ground with Shoeface, you know what's happening. So that doesn't really tell you much of a story. But I just wonder if Monte has enough for Wilkinson on the ground, or is something for Wilkinson on the ground to put it back to the feet to force him to fight. I actually think Wilkinson will be happy enough, or will be confident enough to strike with Monte early at least, and maybe he'll continue to strike with him. Maybe he'll just get the better of it. I'm actually not sure on this one, just because we haven't, or I personally anyway, haven't seen enough of Monte to kind of know. I feel like I have seen enough of Rob Wilkinson to know that he is a very, very good fighter. I've seen enough of Monte to know that he's a dangerous fighter. That puts me and leads me to believe that this will be a very good fight. So, very fun fight in the light heavyweight division. We go back and forth through the light heavyweight and the lightweights here. We might as well. This is the way the card lines up. The next one in the lightweight division is 15-5 Olivier Aubin-Mercier against 10-2 Alex Martinez. I'll get to Martinez first because I like him. You know, I really like his style. I like how he fights. He beat Clay Collard and Stevie Ray this year. Back in 2021, he had the best run of it. He lost to Like Rabzabov, beat Like Rabzabov, and lost to Nathan Schultz in the middle as well. Before that, you know, he was fighting obviously outside of the PFL. He had a couple of fights in Brave after making his debut back in 2016. And then for Aubin-Mercier, you know, we probably all know Olivier Aubin-Mercier at this stage, the Canadian gangster fighting out of TriStar and H2O as well. He's had a great run since he's gone to the PFL. Honestly, he beat Marcin Hell, Daryl Harcher, Nathan Schultz, the former champion, and Hausch Maffeu as well. You know, I picked Maffeu to win that fight, but I was completely and utterly wrong. it was a great win there for Aubin-Mercier, and he had a tough time of it in the UFC. He lost 3 in a row, but look at the 3 he lost to: Arman-Saryuk and Gilbert Burns, Alex Hernandez. He beat the likes of Drew Dober before that, Evan Dunham and others as well. So he's had a long career, 11 years as a pro, and fought a couple of amateur fights as well. A guy who, do you know what? I'll admit it, I've probably underestimated him. He's a good, solid, well-rounded fighter. And sometimes that's all you need to be to win fights in mixed martial arts. If you can do a bit of everything, if you're defensively good, you'll win more fights than you lose in MMA. And that's exactly what he is. I wouldn't say he's spectacular in any area or at anything. He's very good submissions. He's 8 submission wins, 1 KO, and he's 15 wins and 6 decisions as well. All 5 losses come by decision, so he's not like a guy who's getting knocked out or anything like that. Whereas Martinez, I think, you look at him and you think, he's a great striker, but he's 2 knockouts and 4 submissions, 4 decisions, never been finished either. So this one, I would say, is likely to go to a decision. I'll have to do the betting show, and maybe I've picked out one of my own bets there. But I do think this one will go to a decision. If I was to go for a pick here, I'd probably go for Aubin-Mercier, even though, I think it'd be a better fight if Martinez won, if you want to put it that way. I really like Martinez as striking. He's one of these guys who, strikes with his legs almost before he strikes with his hands. He throws, high kicks, teeps to the body and leg kicks and wheel kicks and all of that. Not all the time now. He's not spamming them or anything like that, but he is my type of striker. You see the pictures up on the wall behind me. You know what type of striker that I like. And he is not he's not a Wonderboy or an Anderson Silva or an MVP or anything like that, or even a Kimbo, but I think he uses his kicks and he uses variation very, very well. Whereas Aubin-Mercier just uses, I suppose, the basics and the fundamentals very well, and that's not at all a bad thing. That's a very, very good thing. In fact, if you can be a fundamentally very good fighter, you will beat most fighters. So it's one of those fights. I think it could actually come down to the fundamentals. It really could come down to that, because if OAM is kind of safe enough on the feet and kind of don't get caught by anything big, it will probably turn into that, and then we'll see if Martinez can live with him, I suppose, in that area. So I'll go with Aubin-Mercier because I think it'll get into that, but I think Alex Martinez has a higher ceiling, if you want to put it that way. But is he there yet? He's 28 years of age still, and he's had 12 fights, so he's not inexperienced or anything like that, and fought some very good guys, as I mentioned earlier on. So maybe now is his time. Maybe it is his time, but I picked wrong with Aubin-Mercier last time, and I'm not going to do it again, so I'll go for him here. Right, last 2 fights. This Omari Akhmedov versus Joshua Silveira. I love this fight. I really do. Like Omari Akhmedov, we've seen him around the place for years. He's fought in the UFC, and I fought Chris Weidman and Tom Breeze and Ian Heinisch and Zach Cummins and all these lads, all down through the years. He fought Gunnar Nelson back in the day even. And you know what? I never really thought much of him, to be honest. I always thought he was a good, solid fighter, but I never thought he's what we've seen in the last couple. Arm triangling Theodoros Ostelios, and then knocking out Victor Pesta with one of the nastiest knockouts you'll ever see. He had a tough time. He lost to Brad Tavares in his last fight in the UFC, and then he lost to Jordan Young in the playoffs, or in the PFL last year, sorry. But he's had a great run of it this year, and he's looked like a special fighter. A little bit like Rob Wilkinson as well. He just looks like he is at a stage in his career now where he's 34 years of age. This is his chance. There's 2 fights away from $1 million, and he's going for it. And that's it. If you what my last 5 seconds of speaking there is exactly all you need to know about Akhmedov. You can forget about what happened before. It's like they say in the Premier League here, or in the FA Cup or whatever. It's like a cup final. You can throw all the form out the window. It's like a derby game. Throw all the form out the window. When Rangers and Celtic, when Man United and Liverpool meet, it's that derby. It all comes down to that. It all comes down to passion and feel and all. And I feel like that's a little bit of the way with Akhmedov. Now, he has good skill, and he can strike, and he can submit, and he can wrestle, and he can do it all. And it feels like his time. It just does feel like his time. But he's meeting a guy in Joshua Silveira who's a young up-and-comer. When I say young as well, he's 29 years of age, but God almighty, this guy is so impressive. He fought in the Challenger Series back in February. He got an opportunity after an injury, and he beat Martin Hamlet in the first round back in June of this year as well. So it's a quick turnaround here. He was fighting in LFA. Obviously he's known as the son of Conan Silveira, the coach at ATT. So he has the breeding for it, I suppose, and he's really, really good. Very good submissions, brilliant wrestling, big, strong guy as well. And look what he'll be looking to do here. I said look about 5 times there, but anyway, he'll be trying to take this fight to the ground. Let's not beat around the bush here. That's exactly what he'll be trying to do. Akhmedov is good wrestling though. He's a good takedown defense, so if he can stop it, we'll see what Silveira is made of on the feet. I tend to think he'll be pretty good, but I don't know. I know Akhmedov can hit hard, and he is pretty good. So this is a fight I'm really looking forward to. Like, I've looked at Silveira a good bit. I've watched a good few of his fights, and I feel like he is a brilliant fighter, like a massive prospect in the world of mixed martial arts. But I have this thing, about fighters who go 9-1 to start their career. There's like Fedor, John Jones, GSP, Chris Cyborg, loads and loads and loads of them, and he's 9-0 right now. Most of the best, almost all of the best, lose at least one fight in their first 10. So we'll see, will this be the one for Joshua Silveira? We will see. Do you know what? I'm going to go for him. I think he'll win it. So my pick is Joshua Silveira in that one. But that's the fight. That's the fight I'm most looking forward to, I think, this weekend. But it's a brilliant fight. It's a really, really good fight. Again, a known quantity against, I suppose, an up-and-comer who we don't know how good he will be yet, but it looks like he will be pretty good. And in the main event, we have a rematch, a very, very quick rematch. The Anthony Pettis and Stevie Ray, they fought only in June. So what, a month ago, was it? 2 months ago-ish? Not that far ago. It says here in Sherlock it was a twister. Was it a twister? It was kind of like a modified body triangle. I wouldn't call that a twister. No, maybe I'm wrong. I'm no jiu-jitsu expert or anything like that. But it was a very interesting fight because just watching it back now, you watch it at the time and you kind of get carried away, or you listen to the commentary maybe too much and all of that. Watching it back now, I actually think Stevie Ray was doing way better on the feet and in the striking than I thought at the time, and maybe people said at the time. It wasn't like, okay, maybe he wasn't winning necessarily, but I don't think he was losing badly either. Now, apart from that big head kick that Anthony Pettis did land, but early in that first round, Pettis was kind of throwing big knees and he was throwing big kicks, and everything that landed, Stevie Ray was kind of dealing with it, and he was putting on that forward pressure, putting Anthony Pettis where you need to put Anthony Pettis, with his back against the cage. Pettis was doing well at times of circling, but when the fight got into the second round, as Pettis invariably does, like, Pettis is one of my favourite fighters in the world, but also no fighter has ever frustrated me watching him as much as Anthony Pettis, because I'm just like circle, and then at one stage in the fight, every single time he stops circling and he gets put against the cage. Now, he submits lads a lot of the time as well. Anthony Pettis has 8 submission wins and 25 fights. I think in the UFC, he had more submission wins than knockout wins. If someone wants to go back and check that, but I think that's right. So he can do that there, but not this time. Last time even, Stevie Ray ended up submitting him with that modified body lock twister, or whatever you want to call it. And I'm very interested to see if that's a thing that maybe pops up again, and the word pop there is no pun intended. But I was listening to an interview with a sportsman from my part of the world. I won't bore everyone with who it is or what it is. But he was talking about his knee, and he did his ACL, but then a few months later when he had come back, he felt like a pop again, but it wasn't the ACL, it was cartilage. And he was kind of saying, okay, to rehab that or whatever, and the cartilage is gone and all this. And he was saying, like, every now and then you kind of feel it, I wonder, is that the case with kind of Pettis and the ribs? We saw it happen. Was the Poirier fight, wasn't it? And this fight as well. I wonder, is it an issue with Pettis that you can kind of never stop, never get rid of? And the very interesting thing, I thought it was brilliant corner work. I think MMA corners generally are actually either just roaring and shouting or not that great. But there was great corner work here from Stevie Ray's corner, where they were roaring at him. And it might sound simple, and it might sound like I'm reading too much into it, but they were roaring, squeeze it, Stevie, squeeze it, squeeze it. When he got to that, like, the body triangle on the side rather than the body triangle like on the stomach, And they were like, squeeze it. And they saw the opportunity straight away. And Stevie Ray, I think, said afterwards that he had worked in it and this was the thing he was looking for. So brilliant scouting and brilliant cornering, brilliant fighting by Stevie Ray, obviously, as well. But that's the sort of thing. If you have a corner like that, it can win you fights. And I'm not saying Stevie wouldn't have done it anyway, but it definitely helped, I think. And that's brilliant as well. But look, it's a very interesting fight because you're looking at it from Stevie Ray's point of view. I don't think he'll have any less motivation coming in there. Now, usually you see, you beat someone and then you'd fight him straight away again. And it's like, oh God, I just climbed this mountain. I can't believe I have to do it again. But it's like halfway up the mountain for Stevie Ray because he knows he's going for this £1 million prize, obviously, and he wants to be the PFL champion and all of that. And Anthony Pettis is still Anthony Pettis, you know? Whereas for Pettis, if the injury is kind of held up, or maybe it's just kind of a cartilage thing that it's like, well, it's popped and there's nothing I can do about it anyway, let's just keep going. I'm not sure. I'm not a doctor or a physiotherapist or anything like that, as you can probably guess. So as long as he's okay, it's a massive opportunity for him to get back in there and fight a guy who just beat him and beat a guy again who just beat him. You know, if he can beat him, obviously Stevie Ray won't be open for that. But it's interesting because we don't really see this in MMA all that often in like a cleanly won fight. You know, sometimes if there's an eye poke or, you know, someone slips on a banana peel or something, okay, lads, this is unfortunate, let's fight again in 2 weeks time. You know, we've seen that in MMA before, or months time, or the next pay-per-view or whatever it is. We very rarely see it like this, and it's kind of cool to see, and I'm interested to see the dynamic of the fight itself and how different it will be. So it's very, very interesting. I'm going to pick Stevie Ray. I don't think Anthony Pettis can be 100% so quickly after that. And when I say 100%, he's probably 100% gone into the fight. But how long has he been at 100% to train for this fight coming up to it when he's only had, what? So it's the 24th of June up until, what's the date? It's the 5th of August. June, July, what is it? 5 weeks? 6 weeks? He probably had to take at least 2 of that or 3 of that off, did he, to recover from that injury. So it's not much time to prepare for someone as good as Stevie Ray, who had a good game plan coming in last time and who was able to go for that and finish him. So I'm going for Stevie Ray. It might be a bit of Celtic bias. But I like Anthony Pettis as well. He frustrates me, but I'm a massive fan of Anthony Pettis as well. Massive fan of Stevie Ray. I like both of these guys, and I think it'll be a fun fight as well, like the first one was. So all right, I will leave it there, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you're a PFL fan out there listening, watching in. Let me know if you enjoyed this, and give me your picks as well in the comment section below. Who do you think will win? Just give me the 4 fights, the 4 top fights: Pettis, Ray, Akhmedov, Silveira, Aubin-Mercier, Martinez, and Monte versus Wilkinson, and we'll see who gets to the final and see who wins it there as well. All right, I leave it there, everyone. My name is Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.